Electric vehicles are becoming more prominent, but demand is hitting a little bit of a speed bump. Joining me now with insights on the semiconductor side of the equation is Simon Keeton. He's Executive Vice President and General Manager of the Power Solutions Group at Onsemi. Simon, great to see you again.
Really good to see you. Thank you for having me today.
So what are you seeing on the demand story side for electric vehicles, and how do you anticipate that playing out for Onsemi this year?
Well, I think there's been a lot of media recently looking at short-term perturbations in the market, specifically in the US and Europe. But we're really focused on the long-term growth aspects, and we still see secular hypergrowth in the automotive segment, particularly around electric vehicles.
So speaking of, how do you balance short-term planning with the long-term vision?
A couple of key aspects that we see for 2024 at Onsemi is we see diversification along the product line for the end customer. So meaning different types of vehicles from the high end all the way to a more cost-effective vehicle. So diversification means more opportunity, especially for the higher voltage silicon carbide and IGBT type products that we have. So that will increase the range of product available to the consumer, and I think will spur more growth over the next several years. The other thing that we see and we hear about a lot are impediments to why people would buy an EV. And one of those is about the charging infrastructure or lack thereof. And so Onsemi is focused on enabling that charging infrastructure, particularly with increasing things like DC fast chargers and introducing new products that increase that power density and reduce the charge time, and ultimately the weight and the size of these fast chargers so they can be deployed in the US, Europe, and China.
And so with the different products in the lineup, on the manufacturing side, how is Onsemi strategizing for internal manufacturing versus outsourcing, given what the different margins are?
Certainly. And if we look at silicon carbide as an example, we are still committed to a vertical supply chain, meaning we grow our own silicon carbide, we make our own devices and our packaging as well. That being said, we still source some silicon carbide substrates from the outside as well, but the majority is internally developed. That way we can guarantee supply to the end customer. I think if you look at diversification along the product lines for the end OEM automotive manufacturers, we need to bring a full toolkit and an optimal solution. That means both silicon carbide when it's necessary and silicon-based solutions. And that will vary depending on the architecture of the vehicle itself and the price point and the performance. And so we want to be a one-stop shop for those end customers.
How does Onsemi stay ahead of the curve in this competitive and dynamic market in silicon carbide?
It's certainly an area of high focus and investment. We're continuing to push the architectures. We're already on our third generation of silicon carbide today. We have 2 more generations in development as we speak. Couple that with some of the interesting packaging development opportunities that we've brought forward. It's about reducing parasitics, pulling heat out of the device, and driving efficiency. This allows a longer range for the car or a reduced size in battery, again, reducing the cost of the overall vehicle. So with that integration that we bring, with that diversification and the innovation that Onsemi brings to bear, we think it actually increases the opportunity for consumers to buy the vehicles that they want.
And so with silicon carbide, what do you think investors need to know right now with what's going on in this space?
It's still an area of long-term growth, and we're talking about secular hyper-growth, not only for the electric vehicle itself, but also the charging infrastructure. So case in point, if you look at a charger today, most are silicon-based and around 20 kilowatts. When you move to silicon carbide, that allows you to grow to 50 to 75 kilowatts and create a power stack of 350 kilowatts. That means 15-minute charging time to 80%. That's only possible with silicon carbide. So we're moving that barrier of people's ideas of what it means to have an electric vehicle.
So what do you think it's going to take to get that sort of high demand kind of appetite back out there in the marketplace?
Education for the customer. We're going to do our part, which is enabling our end customers to offer to their end customers, here's the best solution for you. They need more cost-effective vehicles, need to put out there these partnerships between the OEMs and charging manufacturers to make sure people are aware of what's available and what's coming shortly. It's all about choice and opportunity.
So speaking of opportunity, what would you say is Onsemi's biggest opportunity this year in 2024 and the EV market as a whole?
I think it really lies in intelligent power, not only in the vehicle itself, whether it's onboard charging, the traction inverter, but the offboard charging. So where things like DC fast charging, the solar power, energy storage, we have the full circle, the full suite of products for Onsemi, and I think you're going to see this hypergrowth continue. for 24 and also for the next 5 to 10 years.
And you mentioned education. What other challenges do you think are presented right now in the space that you work in?
I think if you look at it, there's not as much choice, especially regionally. If you look at it, China has more penetration. About 40% of the cars in China are electric vehicles. There's a broader range of vehicles available in China. That breadth of range of vehicles really needs to come to the US and Europe. And I think with that diversification, you're going to see more adoption. People want to have choice. Not everyone can afford this very high-end vehicle. Some people can, some people can't. So I think having that diversification will really push the adoption.
And then what's your top priority for the year?
Top priority is execution, right? We have the customer demand. We have to be there when they need us to be there. And we still are dealing with supply that's above and beyond demand. And so we got to make sure that we service those end customers when they need the product.
Well, Simon, thank you so much for taking the time today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.